King Aerys II Targaryen, commonly called the Mad King, was the 16th member of House Targaryen to rule from the Iron Throne. Although his rule began benevolently, he succumbed to the madness caused by his incestuous lineage and was eventually deposed by Lord Robert Baratheon in a civil war. He was the last Targaryen to sit on the Iron Throne. Aerys fought for his father, Aegon V Targaryen, in the War of the Ninepenny Kings. He took on the tradition of Targaryen inbreeding in order to keep bloodlines pure by marrying his sister Rhaella Targaryen. After his father and brother died in the fire of Summerhall, he became Aerys Targaryen, the second of his name. While he was young, Aerys appeared to be generous, ambitious, and wise, beginning his reign as peaceful and prosperous. Aerys was loved and respected by both lords and commoners. He later became spiteful of the power of others, especially that of his Hand of the King, Tywin Lannister, who had once been one of his closest friends. He eventually grew paranoid of his own family members and his small council. During the Defiance of Duskendale, Aerys was imprisoned and tormented for 6 months, until he was rescued by Ser Barristan Selmy, his imprisonment marking the beginning of Aerys's madness. He executed all those who were involved in the rebellion. The worst punishment was given to Lord Dennis's wife, Rhaella, first mutilated and then burned alive. Commonly remembered as the Mad King, his reign became increasingly erratic and murderous. Despite the fact that nobody expected Aerys to turn up, he suddenly arrived at the Great Tourney at Harrenhal. During this tourney, Aerys knighted Jaime and admitted him to the Kingsguard, but not for his valor and honor. Instead, he wanted to spite his Hand Tywin. His eldest son Rhaegar competed in the tourney, and after winning he shunned his own wife, Elia Martell, and laid his winning roses in the lap of Lyanna Stark of Winterfell. A final round of bloodletting began when Rhaegar allegedly kidnapped Lyanna, prompting many houses in the realm to rebel. Brandon Stark rode to King's Landing, protesting the abduction of his sister and demanding justice. Aerys had him arrested for treason and then offered to ransom him to his father. However, when Rickard Stark rode to King's Landing as he was bid to ransom Brandon, Aerys had him arrested too, and then brutally executed both father and son. Afterward, Aerys demanded Jon Arryn to turn over Eddard Stark and Robert Baratheon, who were still in the Eyrie, to await the king's justice. Instead, Jon called his banners and rebelled, with the noble houses of Stark, Tully, and Baratheon following suit. The rebellion destroyed the royalist armies in several major engagements, culminating in the Battle of the Trident where Rhaegar was killed by Robert. Aerys was betrayed by Tywin, who led an army under the false pretense of defending the capital at King's Landing. When Aerys opened the gates under Grand Maester Pycelle's counsel, Tywin proceeded to brutally sack the city. Aerys ordered Jaime to bring him Tywin's head, before ordering his pyromancer, Rossart, to initiate the wildfire plot. In response, Jaime killed Rossart before stabbing Aerys in the back, who tried to flee, and then cutting his throat, ending his reign and thwarting his insane plot. Aerys's death is not avenged, as Robert pardoned Jaime at the end of the war. It also brought an end to the Targaryen dynasty, which had ruled the Seven Kingdoms for 3 centuries. Aerys was replaced on the Iron Throne by Robert. However, the Targaryen bloodline survived through his grandson, Jon Snow, the product of Rhaegar's secret marriage to Lyanna, the two eloping in mutual love rather than the latter being kidnapped, who was passed off as a bastard of Winterfell by his maternal uncle Eddard, and his 2 youngest children, Viserys and Daenerys, who were spirited away to the free cities. As they travel to King's Landing, Robert talks about having Daenerys assassinated after hearing of her marriage to Drogo. When Eddard protests, Robert reminds him of what Aerys did to his family. Later at the inn at the crossroads, the Hound tells Sansa about how Ser Pain hasn't had much to say since Aerys had Ser tongue torn out. When Eddard arrives in the throne room of the Red Keep, he is confronted by Jaime, who expresses his bitterness at Eddard for judging him over his killing of Aerys, especially after he killed Eddard's father and brother. Eddard counters that Jaime wasn't motivated by justice when he killed Aerys, and that he had served him loyally when serving was safe. Ser Barristan Selmy recounts to Robert how Aerys ordered him to destroy the Kingswood Brotherhood. Selmy himself killed their leader, Simon Toyne. Bored and attempting to mock Jaime, Robert realizes that he never asked Jaime what Aerys's last words were, then taunts Jaime for killing a defenseless old man he had sworn to protect. Jaime tersely responds that the last thing the Mad King said was the same thing he'd been raving for hours, since the sack of the capital by the rebels began: burn them all. This silences Robert's levity. Aemon, the maester sworn to Castle Black, the main fortress of the Night's Watch, reveals to Jon that he is the uncle of Aerys and, because of his oath to the Night's Watch, he could not interfere during the rebellion. Aemon warns Jon that he must live with whatever decision he makes for the rest of his life, and urges him to not abandon the Night's Watch after hearing of Eddard Stark's unjust imprisonment. Pycelle recalls that Aerys was initially a good man. He then laments that he saw Aerys melt away before his eyes, as madness increasingly gripped his mind over the years and a once charming man was consumed by dreams of fire and blood.